Good morning, viewers. Today I am present before you with the work of John Donne entitled The Good Morrow. Before I begin the podcast, it is advisable that you keep a notebook and a pen so that you can jot down the important points relating to this particular topic. It is further advisable to use earplugs for listening to the podcast. So here I begin. The Good Morrow opens in the abrupt, colloquial manner which at once starves and captures attention and which is so characteristic of John Donne. The first stanza describes the contrast between a life without love and a life of all-absorbing, passionate love. In the subsequent stanzas, it is pointed out that the world of love is as spacious and as good as the physical world. Nay, in some respects, it is even better. Donne, like a clever lawyer, advances arguments after arguments to drive his point home. The poet follows the device of what Helen Garden calls concentration. The readers are held to a line of argument, reasoning, and analysis till the poet has established the validity of his point of view. As Williamson puts it, this fine love lyric is not merely the salutation of a new day, but the discovery of something more real and strange than anything they have known, an absorbing love. This idea governs the imagery and development of thought in the poem. Hence, it begins with ordinary reality in which love makes all past experience seem childish or an oblivion as deep as that of the 7 sleepers who slept nearly for 200 years. Any former love becomes only a platonic dream of this new love. Now that their souls have wakened to a new day and a new life, they become absorbed in one another. Love, not fear, restricts their attention to each other, and love makes their little rooms a world. No voyager or map reader can find a world more wonderful than they find in each other. Their world manifests duality in unity. When each one is reflected in the other, then their world includes them as 2 hemispheres, but without the usual shortcomings of a cold north or sinking west. Yet, how can their love escape change in a mutable world? Though one in love, they are 2 beings, but in scholastic doctrine, neither a simple unity like the soul, nor a compound without contrariety can be dissolved, and so either simple oneness or equality of love will preserve there in love. Thus, step by step, point by point, the poet succeeds in establishing his point of view. The poem provides a fine example of Donne's wit. Says Leonard Unger in this connection, I quote, "This wit consists in the contrast between the 2 worlds, the world of lovers and the geographical world. It is moreover not merely a verbal wit, for each world represents an attitude, the worldly attitude and the lover's attitude. There is then a complexity of attitudes in the poem. But the lover who speaks the poem gives no hint of being involved in an ironical situation or of entertaining any complexity of attitudes. He dismisses the geographical world and affirms the world of love." Unquote. Another thing to note about the lyric is its imagery, which, as Grierson rightly points out, has been drawn from a variety of sources: myth, the 7 sleepers' den, everyday life, sucked on country pleasures, and wishing in the morning one little room. The geographical world, sea discoveries, maps, hemispheres, and lastly the scholastic philosophy. Whatever dies was not mixed equally. The relation between one object and the other are made intellectually rather than verbally. Thus, the sources of Donne's imagery are varied and range from scholastic philosophy to the facts of everyday life. But they have been fused into an organic whole by the alchemy of Donne's wit. Donne sees the macrocosm in the microcosm, the great in the small, and the geographical discoveries of his day are pressed into services to establish the superiority of the world of spiritual love and medieval philosophy and science are used to show that the world of love is not subject to death and decay like the physical world. Thus, the poem provides a fine instance of that unification of sensibility for which Eliot praised the metaphysical poets so highly. In short, The Good Morrow is one of those poems which bring out the chief characteristics of Donne as a poet. It is for this reason that F. W. Payne praises the poem and writes, I quote, in this little poem we have the adult manners of Donne. Practically every element is present. The first line and a half gives one of those magical phrases which lift his verse out of the common rut. Throughout the piece, we feel the direction and directness of impact, which is the outstanding characteristic of his phrasing. In stanzas 2 and 3, we find the type of imagery which most distinguished him from his contemporaries. Temperamentally averse to the sweetness and artificiality of the love poetry of his time, he attempts realism as has been already seen in his satires. Tired of the worn-out conventions of classical imagery, he turns to the contemporary life in which he had vivid interest. One of the chief preoccupations of his time was geographical discoveries, which accordingly are pressed into service. Unquote. So this was all about the famous poem of John Donne, The Good Morrow. Please mention your observations and questions in the comment section below. Please do like, share and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to click on the bell icon for latest update. Thank you for your valuable time. Here's wishing you a great day ahead.